In the past I've been commissioned to photograph and write 2 books about Edinburgh, so it's a city I know quite well. But it's one that I haven't been to for nearly 10 years, and it's one that I've never actually taken mirrorless gear to. When I last came here, I used a DSLR with a trio lenses and my bag weighed a ton. Anyway, I thought I'd book myself a trip up to Edinburgh to revisit some old spots, take some new shots, and I had my fingers crossed for some nice autumn light. However, the weather gods have got different ideas, and today is something of a drab day in Edinburgh, which is a real shame. As I say, it's probably been nearly 10 years since I last came here. The last time I came, I actually bought a bag full of Canon gear, so it was a DSLR, probably the 5D Mark II, and a trio of zoom lenses, and to be fair, my bag weighed an absolute ton. So today I'm travelling really light. I'm using a Micro Four Thirds setup, my G100, 12-32 and a 32-100, so that's what, 24 to 200mm covered in 2 lenses, and my little infrared Panasonic G7, which you will have seen in last week's video. So yeah, I'm just hoping that the weather does improve a bit and we actually get some shots. But I think what I'm basically going to do is kick off today's shooting with an infrared shot of the Stuart Monument there. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I think there'll be a fair bit of infrared kicking around, so I'm quite optimistic I'll get something of interest. And then what we'll do, we'll try and find a bit of cover, and I'll have a chat with you about my camera bag, my gear, and why I think it's probably the perfect setup for travel photography. As you can see, I've switched to the GoPro, so I can sort of show you what's going on. I hope you can see okay. This way of shooting is quite alien to me, because normally I always use the EVF here, because I like to try and sort of basically hold against my face. I think it takes things a bit more stable. I'm not a great fan of holding things at an arm's length like this, but you know, needs must. Because it is undeniably a good way of being able to share what I'm actually doing and show you the settings. So we're at f8, shutter speed 60 per second. We've got an ISO of 200. Now there is quite a lot of infrared light radiating here, so that's quite pleasant actually. So I'm going to take a shot. Now we'll check the histogram. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, I think this shot might be quite interesting. To be honest, I wouldn't normally take it, but what I do think it's a really good demonstration of how much infrared light actually flies around. Even on the wettest day, as you can see, that's half a seat in the distance, which is actually an extinct volcano. I'm going to try it again. So f8, 100 per second should be absolutely fine. As I said in last week's video, there's something very liberating about carrying a lighter camera bag. Basically, it means you can walk more and you're more inclined to just do more. It's not such a hassle to get your camera bag off or to take your camera bag out in the first place. And really, you can spend a day exploring a city using something like this, which is like 2 small compact cameras, you know, infrared G7 and a Panasonic G100. And so far I've got a couple of shots from the bag, which to be honest, I don't think I'd have taken if I'd have had the old Canon gear. I definitely wouldn't have bought the Canon infrared DSLR with me, so really that's all a bonus. But what I'm going to do now is, because I don't want to shoot infrared all day, that wasn't my plan. Last week was an infrared video, this week is just a general photography video. So I've just done a nice quick swap of the lens from the G7 to the G100. Now of course the only worry with the G100 is it's a non-weatherproof camera, so I've got to keep my eye on it, try and make sure it doesn't get too wet, but I'm not too concerned. I've used it in the rain before and the results have been good. Well, what makes a camera system good for travel photography anyway? I think there's a few things it has to do, doesn't it? It has to have good image quality. And to be honest, I think the Micro Four Thirds system is really nice. I'm not saying it's got the best image quality, but I think it's definitely more than good enough for travel photography and landscape photography. In fact, I think it's generally more than good enough for most kinds of photography. Perhaps the only thing it slips up on is low light. And even with fast primes, you know, high ISOs aren't as good with Micro Four Thirds. But to be honest, they're not that bad. It's getting there. I don't really have too much issues. Push comes to shove, I would use this at ISO 3200 and the results will still be more than usable. So I think really, that's fine. So for me, image quality, size, as I've just mentioned, size has to be there. And then it's the flexibility of the lenses. So you can have the best camera in the world, but if your lens is that big and bulky or don't cover the ranges you need, then really it's just not going to do the job, is it? As I say, I'm covering this today from 24 to 200mm. Full frame terms, of course, using that and that. Look at the size. That is just wonderful. You know, ultimately, if I get less fatigue from camera gear around, I'm more likely to take shots. And I think really that is the key. That's the total key of it all. So for me, yeah, travel system, nice and light, good image quality. I would like it to be weatherproofed. I will admit that. The problem is if I switch to a weatherproofed Micro Four Thirds system, I think that perhaps the camera sizes may start to increase. And I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it too much, simply because I'm quite happy with the G100. But yeah, it may be something I'll look into in the future. But at the moment, it's all good. So yeah, I think that for me, it's nothing to do with sensor size, high ISO, ergonomics. It's just all about how lightweight it is to carry and what the actual final image quality looks like. The rest I can work around. It's not like I'm working in a high pressure scenario like doing weddings or commercial shoots and stuff like that. We're walking around the city and having a bit of fun. And talking of which, I think it's time to head towards the old town. So I've swapped my lens to the low 35 to 100, which is a lens I'm keen to use more and more. I'm hoping you can see this okay. I'm a bit worried about camera shake. Well, I've got 3/25 second, 5.6, ISO 200 still. So same subject again, different angle. Now hopefully I'm now going to demonstrate why a lens like this is just so versatile to have. Basically what we've got there, we've got the Burns Monument and we've got the Balmoral Clock, which is the most photographed clock in Scotland. And there you have a nice simple composition showing two iconic locations in Edinburgh contained in one frame. Right, I'm struggling a bit here. Right, the problem I'm having is basically holding my camera like this. I find it really difficult, and I much prefer to do it like that, because the whole thing's then a lot sturdier. And basically you get 3 points of contact, don't you? You get your two hands like this, so if I do the side, then you get your face, so you're almost mimicking a tripod. Now the problem I have, if I hold it like this or like that, there's just more chance of camera shake and it just doesn't feel right. So what I'm going to do is basically I think I'm going to go back to doing it the old tested way of holding the EVF up to my eye, which also I find a bit more immersive. So I cut out all the clutter around and I just see the picture and nothing else. So that's what I'm going to try doing. So yeah, I might not be able to take you along for the next few shots, but yeah, let's see how we get on. It's fair to say that Edinburgh is very busy today. It's mid-September. I actually expected it to be a little bit quieter by now. I expected some of the tourists to have gone, but no, it's still incredibly busy. And what that would have meant is really, if I'd have been using the standard zoom, like a 24-70 equivalent, or the 12-32, which I've got on here, which is 24-64, then I don't think I would have got any people-free shots. And really, people-free shots is quite important for me, because if I ever want to sell these photos via stock libraries and things like that, really, you don't want any people on it which are recognisable. So you can creatively blur them, or you can just totally not get them in at all. And that's what I chose to do here, was basically using 70-200mm equivalents. I could effectively frame up shots and not get any people in. Now, what also happened is basically, because the light's not that good, you know, it's overcast light, which is fine for detailed subjects, so I shot accordingly to the light, which was detailed subjects. So again, 200mm lens, you can sort of isolate lots of nice details, and it's just nice and simple to be able to walk around with such a small camera and such a small form factor to actually take these shots. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the lens to the 12-32, and I'm going to head down to the new town, so I'll see you there. Well, I've taken a slight detour en route, but you know me, I love a bit of mischief. But before we continue on, I do need to talk about battery life, because to be honest, I suppose it makes sense if you've got a smaller camera system and a smaller camera body, that you are going to have smaller batteries. Now, I'll be honest, the battery life on this G100 is, well, pretty pants, to be honest. But you know, it's the price you pay for a small battery. So you do have to factor in, if you're using a smaller camera, that you're going to have to take more batteries, which, to be honest, is a bit of a pain. So the photos that you've just seen were taken on an hour's wander around the Georgian part of Edinburgh, which is the new town. Now, I solely used the G100 and the 12-32 kit lens, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to actually talk about this lens, because I think it's a very underrated lens. Yes, it's plastic, total plastic, fantastic, but look how small it sort of folds down to. I've got a little lens hood on here. Without that, it's even smaller. And obviously you have to twist it open to use it. And you know, the aperture range isn't the most impressive really. It's not a low light lens at all. But what I would say, it's like incredibly sharp. The colours on it are lovely. And it's such a nice lens to use coupled with a small G100. It's a really good walk around lens. And to be honest, I think if you're only thinking about getting one micro four thirds camera for travel, I think the G100 and the 12-32 would be a good starter, because it does pretty much everything you want to do. And obviously it does pretty decent video. Just be aware that if you put it on face tracking, that it may lose your face occasionally and it may pulsate a bit. But if you take manual control of it, you know, it does a wonderful job of video. The output is really nice. But going back to the lens, 12-32, it's a really useful range, you know, that's 24-64 effectively. So yeah, it's your standard for 24-70. And it's, what more can you say really? There's a reason why it's the standard zoom. It's just the fact that it's basically a jack of all trades, master of none. But I think from here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to where we started the video this morning. I'm hoping by the time I get there, the weather will have improved slightly. Well, the fact I'm using the GoPro to record this video is probably going to tell you something. The rain has come yet again, and it's supposed to get heavier. So, unfortunately, as the G100 is not weather sealed, I don't think I can really risk it in constant heavy rain. So I'm going to have to call it a day. It's been a good day though. I've got some photos I'm pleased with, but I just, yeah, I wish I'd have got something else later, but it's not to be. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you again soon for another one. Thanks for watching.